Cap DFS podcast. Excited for you to join us. Thank you, everybody that's tuned into the first couple episodes and either on any of the podcast platforms or on the YouTube. Really appreciate the support and feedback we've been getting. And the more of this that you guys want to see, the more of it we can do. So I just appreciate all the feedback, and we'll keep growing. And one of my big goals of the podcast is to introduce you guys to some of the best players in the world that you never heard of. And I'm very excited about our guest today. He's a guy who absolutely crushes. He crushes multiple sports. He's a guy that I have chased for years and years and years. And before I had the right attitude, I would see him winning contests and I would be like, this effing guy does so well, F this guy. And you just you get jealous. And then you start to become better as a player and you see this guy and it's almost like you become buddies without knowing each other. And it's like the thing that we're always talking about, game recognized game. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome today's guest on, William Bierman, a.k.a. CSManiac. Will, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing great, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. You are a guy, like I was saying, I've just chased for years and years and years. And then it just gets to the point where, you know, your jealousy turns into respect, turns into excitement. And then we connect behind the scenes and I learned what a cool dude you are and what similar interests we have. And, you know, it's like we connected on Twitter and I was like, dude, I'm a big fan of yours. And you're like, I'm a big fan of you. And it's like, you know, it's just funny how in our heads it can be something where we make it out to be something it isn't. And the reality is way, way better. So I just want to shout you out, man. You're a guy that as I was getting better as a player, I would always see you up there and I aspired to be like you. And it's an honor to have you on the podcast today.
I mean, like I said, likewise, pretty much just grinding out. You know, like lower mid stakes, always in every winner take all boosters, and always see you there too, and always chasing you to the top as well.
Well, it's fun because you I don't know what your journey is like, and we're gonna find that out. But you struggle in the beginning, and then you start to learn how to play this game, and then you want to play in everything. You want to play all the volume you can get, and it's just, you know, you start to see the compound effect of what DFS on a good night can do to wipe out, you know, not days, you know, sometimes you can wipe out weeks of losses with one good night. So let's get into how you got into DFS. Talk to us about how you started playing, what you did prior that led you to the path. Most people, you know, play season long and then DFS. So just walk us through how long you've been playing, how your journey started, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. I've always been into sports my entire life. And I think randomly, it was on some website, they were having some promotion for, I believe it was FanDuel at the time. I think my first DFS game I ever played was college football, and I didn't even know too much about college football at that time. And it was a $5 contest, and I was like, maybe I'll do a little research and see what's up. This was in 2014. That's how long I've been playing. I've been playing since 2014, and I think I played it. I did a little bit of research, and I wound up coming in like the top 3 or 2, and it was like $5 into $500. I was like, wow, this is awesome. This is amazing. And from there on, you know, I just started playing maybe once a week, maybe a few times a week, obviously, and then it just builds up, move on to more sports. Just, you know, everyone starts low. No one starts with, you know, thousands of dollars and just turns that into more thousands, and then just keep building it up, and then just went from there, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it.
So you had some success initially, and sometimes that can be more of a curse than a blessing. Did you experience the momentum continuing, or did you run into any potential obstacles where you felt like...
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
I mean, there's no way any single player could win every single day all the time and just constantly build it up and up and up. You know, there's definitely been downs, there's been ups, and I mean, there's obviously been more ups than downs for me to be in a position to just play daily fantasy full time instead of having like a full-time job and doing DFS for fun.
Now, when did you transition from it being a hobby into something that you're doing now full time?
I think it was just struggling to actually get a full-time job. I went to school. I graduated with a degree. I actually have a degree in neuroscience. I graduated from the University of Massachusetts. I have a degree, and I just kept trying to get jobs. Unfortunately, I never was able to find a stable job, and I was just like, maybe I'll just move to this. And that's pretty much how it went. Started playing more, started winning more. So I'm just like, I'm going to keep doing this. Yeah.
I think that's incredibly interesting because a lot of the times the things that happen in life that we perceive as bad are actually blessings in disguise. And I think that's very prevalent in DFS. And I was talking to another player today who's going to be, transitioning from building by hand into multi-entry. And a lot of what we think works, it's actually the opposite. And, I like to say it's very paradoxical in, the way that life works out, especially in playing DFS. So I love hearing what you said about your journey, because that's one of the highlights that I really want to dig into with the podcast is, when we think of DFS pros, we think of the guys who everybody is either, they're very polarizing characters. You either love them or you hate them. Nobody feels neutral about the Chipotle brothers. But for the reality of other people like us, we are playing this as, our job or our main source of income or it's not the typical thing what we think. And I want it to be more encouraging for other players to be like, hey, you can do it too. You come from a different background than me. Our other two guests come from different backgrounds, but yet we've all found ways to be successful. So I think that's incredibly, enlightening to casual players trying to become better at this. So one of the things I want to dig into is, what have you found from your neuroscience background that you've been able to parlay into DFS success?
From the background, probably just data work. Just looking at a lot of different sources of data, compiling them, trying to figure out what's the best source, and things like that. Not too much else, I would say, to be honest. But yeah, that's about it, I would say.
Now, when you are transitioning into this full time like you are, obviously, it like you said, it's fun to win a lot of money, but we got to eat also. So talk to me a little bit more about how you've structured your style of play and increasing your volume, but also making sure that you have money set aside to take care of what you need to take care of on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, people stress it enough with bankroll management. Just never play above your means. I could have a really good day the day before, and I'll still wind up playing the same exact amount the next day, just because I won, X amount the day before. I'm not gonna go out and enter a much bigger contest for any reason of that sort. Another thing I would say is, one of the biggest things would be if you don't feel comfortable with a slate or whatever you're doing, there's always time to withdraw. I don't think people understand that. I've had it happen numerous times, whether it be weather in a baseball game, whether it be a late scratch in NBA or something. And before lock, you can easily withdraw, as long as they're not head-to-heads or cash games, you could easily withdraw all your entries. You can message DK or FanDuel customer service and say, hey, would you be able to match withdraw me from these contests? And they can. And I think that's one of the biggest things I could say again is just, if you don't feel comfortable, you don't have to play. No one's forcing you to play. That's one of the big things that I've come across sometimes. Also, obviously you could have computer problems, something else. I've had problems in the past where even I couldn't get lineups in. I've had some slates where I've just had $400 or $500 in just one lineup that was just a dummy lineup that I just never got to edit, and it sucked because it's just that's just gone money. But that's pretty much what I would say.
Well, I think that what you just touched on is really important, because there's so much goes into this game that is within our control, and even still, that may not be enough some days. And I was chatting with another player who had some stuff outside of DFS come up that affected his play, and I was just telling him, I'm like, man, yeah, I've been there, and I struggle with that as well. It's I've got some family coming into town next week, and I love playing every day. I only take one day off, but it's am I going to be as good of a player trying to entertain family while also trying to play this game. And, it's the little edges that us lower stakes players are always looking for to magnify the aspect of our game. Like you just said, that's one thing that I don't think a lot of players know is if you communicate with DraftKings and FanDuel, they can help you out, get you out of a bind. That's an edge. Not playing when you don't feel like playing, that's an edge. When you win, don't move up in stakes, or if you're going to increase your volume, increase it, half of a percent, not, I'm going to put in all that I won the next day. Because I think for too many people, they think the trajectory of this path as a DFS player is, shot out of a rocket ship, when it's more so, just one foot in the other. Some days you can't even move an inch, and you fight to win that inch, and one step back, 10 steps forward. So I really appreciate you sharing that, because this is what you're experiencing and what I'm experiencing. That's what I'm trying to paint for the casual players is, hey, if you cut out the amateur crap, you can be a much better player. Out of necessity, you had to become professional playing this game. I hated the job that I worked at previously, so I had to do something different to achieve the levels of success that I wanted to achieve. So given everything that you've just discussed, was there a particular time or a moment or a handful of moments or a particular season where you just felt like the light bulbs were going off and you were just like, man, things are really clicking, and I'm no longer, afraid of playing this game or thinking I got lucky. Like I'm good. Like I belong here. I could legit do this, and take it as far as I want to take it.
I mean, as far as that goes, I believe hot and cold streaks exist for DFS players, and I've been on hot streaks, I've been on cold streaks, and I think like probably in NBA a couple of years ago, I was just like winning like day after day, and then things like that. And you're like, I could like do this. Besides DFS, I mean, you could also like branch out to other industries. Like the betting industry, which I've also done as well. And I mean, just you go from there, and just try not to get discouraged if you're losing. I mean, you can lose for weeks, you can lose for months, and it's hard. But as long as you're not playing above your means and you're able to support yourself, then you'll be fine.
Now, talk to us a little bit more about that when it's not going well. Is there a process or a routine, or are you taking days off? Are you getting away from the game, doing something that you enjoy outside of DFS to clear your head? Talk to us a little bit more when it's not working and how you get back on path.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, I can honestly say that I have not been having the best success with baseball this season. It's been hard, and sometimes you gotta just take days off and just not play. Like, no one is forcing you to play every single day, every single slate, and sometimes you just gotta take a step back, clear your head, do something fun, get out of your house, away from the computer, and just relax and be like, hey, you know what? It's nice. I don't have to keep checking my phone. I don't have to look at these updates. Nothing. And pretty much that. I mean, find something else to do besides play DFS. I know it's hard. It is hard. Like, I've had days where I was just like, I'm not gambling. I don't have anybody on the line, and this is boring. Like, it sucks, but sometimes you just gotta take a step back, obviously.
Well, and I think what you just described is incredibly healthy, because I think that somebody from a neuroscience background is going to understand how, when things go well from a DFS perspective, what that does to the brain, the dopamine rush that you get. A lot of people don't, and I like to joke around that this can go from healthy to addiction, very, very fast. And so it's very crucial for us to put those stop gaps in place, to have those plans. Are you ever in a scenario where you are running bad and you need to step down in stakes? Is that ever something that you consider?
I might have considered it, but most of the time not. I pretty much play the same amount of contests, same amount of things, pretty much every day. And it's like I'm kind of in that run of just maxing pretty much everything, low stakes, as like minimaxes, winner take alls, boosters, and it's really like, I don't think people realize the amount of money it takes to move up in stakes. Like, if you're playing that, if you're like a mid to low stakes player and you try to move up, it's a lot more money that you have to have in play. So I don't think I'm at the level. It's very hard to move up from low stakes where I'm at to upper, higher, mid stakes.
Well, and I think that's the challenge is there's no guidebook. We're the players like us that are experiencing it right now. We're literally writing the guidebook on how to do it. We're gonna make mistakes. There is no right answer. Unless you're injecting a major 5-figure, 6-figure score on a regular basis, it's incredibly challenging. So I really appreciate your level attitude about, hey, you know what? I'm very realistic. I really appreciate what a humble player you are. Before we got on the phone, you were talking about your struggles with MLB, and I can see on your roto grinders the success that you've had, and I think that is probably attributed to your success of just being able to stay very level-headed and not get too high when you win, not get too low when you lose. And I think that it can be a struggle for a lot of players to purge themselves of the bad tendencies of how it affects your brain. And, hey, when I'm losing, I'm going to lose forever, and when I'm winning, I'm never going to lose. So I think you being calm and level is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, people always say, or something I say, it always seems like it's always too much when you lose and never enough when you win. But you have to kind of put that aside and just have a good balance and realize, hey, I did that. I won money. Let's move on to tomorrow. Or I lost money. I'll just move on to tomorrow. It happens.
And that's the reality that I really want to share with other players is, I can't speak for you, but I lose about 70% of the time. And it feels normal. I'd like to increase my win rate. I'd like to increase my ROI, but I'm comfortable with where it's at. And it's you get to a point where sometimes you lose the amount of money, and when you first start looking at it, it's like that was a car payment, or that was my car insurance, or it was this, or it was that. But I think you have to be able to separate yourself from the here and the now, like you just said, and look at things, more over the course of, hey, you know what have I done the last 20 slates, the last 100 slates, the last 1,000 slates? That helps you keep the perspective. Is that something that you encounter as well, to keep your head level and play this game the way that needs to be played?
Yeah, for sure. It's been funny. It's literally, I've thought of things that, I could have bought it with the money I played and be like, I could have bought that instead of playing, but I don't know. Sometimes I don't think of those things, but yeah, just always stay in your means. I've known people who had like really big tournament wins, and then they start playing very high stakes, and they lose it all very quickly. And it's super important to stay what you can do. Don't try to every day is a new day. There's so many days. Every single day, there's so many sports. You don't need to go all in, one day. Just keep grinding.
Now, when you're factoring in your bankroll, I know you said you play the same contest, and one of the things that I actually like about DraftKings is no matter what volume I get at my current level, it naturally ends up being a percentage of my bankroll that I'm comfortable with. So are you more looking at the stakes that you're playing when you're getting more volume, or are you more concerned about what allocation of your bankroll that you're putting in play?
Pretty much just the amount of playing and what contests I'm in. We've talked about this before. It's something I've always stressed for low to mid-stakes players is to play these like low-level contests. They have the dime time, which they're putting up very consistently right now. Winner take all the boosters, because if you're a low stakes player and you're just, or a micro stakes, whatever you want to call it, and you're just maxing the minimax every night, you're probably not going to do that well. But if you have these other contests such as the boosters and the winner take alls, I believe you'll have so much more success than just playing the minimax.
Now, it's interesting because when I see something like the dime time and I'm just in the lobby, add, I love it. But it's funny, I'll talk to other players that share what you just said about, hey, I'm trying to win the minimax every single night. So I think that, it's a mental switch that you have to flip of, we see more volume at the lower stakes. Like, it's a feeding frenzy. I love it. I can't get enough of it. Where they see it as it's almost like it's beneath them. I don't understand why they're so hesitant to get, and the barrier of entry of a $2 tournament versus, an $80 tournament is insane. How much more you can play to get better at that $2 level.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and what I always told people also about these boosters and the winner take alls is most people, I would say probably about 40 to 50% of the people who enter those, like I personally, I do 150 lineups every night. For people who don't know, max and minimax every night. And for people, I don't think people realize that in these boosters and winner take alls, probably about 40 to 50% of the lineups are just people's cash lineups, which probably won't win a winner take all probably 95% of the time. And when you enter your tournament lineups into it, you have a much better chance of winning that than like a mini max. You come in like the top 5 in a mini max and get like $75, or you could beat out 100 people in a winner take all and win like $100. So I just want to stress that for low stakes players to enter those instead of just just playing the mini max.
Yeah, it's funny because when I first started playing, like I was all about chasing the glory and I wanted to be the king of everything and look at how many people I beat for this and look how much money I have and I just lost. I just sucked. And it's like the smaller the field, like that's what gets me excited now, not necessarily the prize pool at the end because I think just like the compound interest of DFS. So if you're building 150 lineups a night, so if you have, let's just say you had 900 entries on the main slate with all of the dime times and boosters and winner take calls and quarter jukeboxes and solo shots and table setters, you can get a ton of volume under $3 on DraftKings. Are you entering in your
For sure.
150? Let's say if you had 900, you'd enter the same 156 times.
What was that?
If you had 900 entries and you're building 150 lineups, would you enter that same 150 set 6 times?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I don't like building. I mean, every single sport, whatever, NFL, MLB, NBA, I'm very strict to 150 lineups. I don't like building more than that. Just based on the fact I can't really, deal with something. If I'm in 150 contest, 150 max contest, and like my 160 lineup is like way better than what it won. I just, it's something I don't like to deal with. So I'm very strict to 150 lineups and just, enter it from there as many times as I can.
And that's kind of like the dirty little secret is, if you have 150 lineups and it's in, 6 different contests, and let's say that is, a top 1% lineup on the night, you're not just winning one contest, you're winning 6 contests. And let's say you had multiple correlations of the same stack for baseball purposes. You're winning multiple contests. I've seen some of the screenshots that you shared with the ROI that you get on a handful of lineups, and it's like, yes, like my guy gets it. This is exactly what I'm doing, and I just think it comes from not playing this game with an ego. It's like, look, I'm going to do the best I can, control what I can control, and hope for the best. And if I have that one hot lineup, we're going to be eating good for a couple days.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because I think that it can be, it's fun. It's fun to build a ton of lineups, but yeah, if you have, your best lineup is in, your 160 or 400th lineup, that's not great. And the other thing that I don't think a lot of people think about is, if you're trying to get volume, like hang out in the lobby all day. Like people think that like DraftKings is or DFS is dying, and it's like no. That's part of the reason I want to help empower other players. Is the more winning players there are that are putting in the work, we see it all day long. What happens when a dime time fills? They open up not 1, 2, sometimes 4 new dime times. Like there's not just one piece of the pie. As these contests fill, DraftKings is going to bake more pie for us. So it's just incredible how your approach is. I don't know how it took me so long to get there, but now that I'm here, it's like I can't imagine playing another way.
Yeah.
How long did it take you
to?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
DraftKings has really been crazy with these die times lately, and also what's good about them, especially for lower stakes players, is the achievements. I don't think a lot of people look at achievements too much, but I don't even come close to nearly 125K in volume for black tier, for the black tier. But through achievements, and if you keep entering dime times, you could get all these achievements really fast and be able to get black tier for the upcoming months. just another thing to look at.
And that's essentially free money. You know, for people that aren't familiar with the tiers, every single day when you log into your DraftKings account, there's a, you know, if you're a lower stakes player, it's a ticket or some crowns. But the more volume that you have in play or the more achievements you're getting, you can move all the way up to black status, which is the top tier, and it's $5 a day, it's $40 a day. Sometimes, you know, there was a couple times $100, and that is like free money based off of, like you said, just acute. So that's that. I mean, that's so incredibly sharp. Like, you're looking for every angle to maximize your return, because if you're, you know, treating this like a business, that's, you know, an income stream. That's a product that you didn't even have to put any risk in to get bonused out on, and you could put that into something else. You could add to your volume and keep repeating to hit the black status. Now, what is one of your goals as you transition through, you know, what you're currently doing and being aware of your buy-in limit at DraftKings before you're forced to move up? What is your plan of attack for when you're forced to move up once you surpass the $1 million in buy-ins?
I'll pretty much cross that road when I get there. I'm not really trying to think about that right now, but I'll cross that road when I get there, and we'll see what happens from there.
You know, I'm pretty excited about as players like us get there, because I think what we're going to see with the increase of dime times, like DraftKings wants their rake. So, you know, the more players that are playing this game, the more contests that are filling, they can lower the rake. Eventually, they're going to be forced to lower the rake to stay competitive. But number two, sports gambling being legalized is going to be such a good thing for DFS, because sports books are so incredibly profitable across the board, more so than DFS. So my expectation is we as players would benefit from more contests and less rake. But if we're seeing a trend of a ton of dime times being opened, as those players that are doing well at the dimes, and not just us, you know, winning at the dime time, other players are winning. It's not just us. Why not open more quarters and then more dollars? And then it's like high volume players like us, when we move up, I'm pretty hopeful that we'll be able to get a handful of high volume stuff to where we can gradually increase without, you know, blowing through all the money that we've had to set aside to prepare for this day.
Yeah, I mean, it really, I mean, like I said, it pretty much really helps lower players, you know, get that ton of volume. And, you know, like the dime times, they like add like these lower stake contests, they add up. People are, you know, $2 I can win. I think yesterday I won like a couple of dime times, and like that's like, I don't know, $40-$50 off like $10, you know, 5 extra money, 6 extra money. They add up after a while, and you know, you start, yeah.
And that's really important, because you could have a dime time where you take first place, second place, fifth, and fourth, and all of a sudden your $2 is now worth $25. You know, that adds up super, super quick. And those are the things that help out. You know, when you have a night like that, it's going to take care of the losing nights or get you out of that losing streak, or you know, pretty much. I mean, I don't know if this is the case for you, but I just want to hang around long enough to get on that, you know, 3 or 4 night streak where I can run pure. Like most of the days I play, little loss, little loser, big loss, big winner. But it's playing for those days where you can really, really infuse some cash in your bankroll. I love the steady grind, but you know, I think that, you know, putting yourself in a position to fail slower than other people so that you can have that, you know, week-long heater, I think that's what all the discipline makes it all worthwhile.
For sure.
So I want to talk a little bit more about your history as a player. You know, you have a very impressive resume on Roto Grinders, and I know that the Roto Grinders tracker isn't the end-all be-all, but the thing that stands out to me with you as a player is you have success in NBA and NHL and PGA, you know, and college football and NFL. How are you balancing sport to sport in terms of playing, but also learning and researching and putting yourself in a position to be a dangerous and successful player?
I would say NBA is probably my best sport. It's just what I've been doing the longest, and that's for sure my best sport. And it's just, you know, obviously many people know NBA. You have to be around your computer till lock time. Obviously, it's just, you know, you start looking at a lot of different. You just look at as much data as possible and try to compare different sites. And you know, go from there. PGA, I'm still somewhat learning. NHL, I would say I was very lucky through satellites and other sports. I was able to build up enough tickets, and I eventually was able to hit on the contest. That's another thing I could talk about is just satellites on DraftKings. That's something I'm very big a part of, and I think everyone should take advantage of those as well. Is through a bunch of these satellites, you win these tickets, and then it's an easy way. It's a good way that you could try to build up more money playing contests maybe you wouldn't have played if you didn't win that ticket. For instance, like one of my biggest actually NBA wins was, I think it was $11 contest, and I won about 35 tickets through like probably like 25 cent or $1 satellites or whatever. And like what DraftKings will do sometimes is in a contest they'll give you back the ticket money or whatever. But I was like, do I want to enter this contest or not? I was debating it for a really long time, and then right before lock, I just entered tickets, and it wound up coming in like third place for like $20,000, which is pretty insane. And like I wouldn't have entered that contest if I never won those tickets, So I would say, yeah, tickets is a great way to, actually try to increase your bankroll, even if you don't have the funds. Just try for these higher dollar tickets or whatever, and then go from there.
I mean, I love everything that you just said. I wish you could see the smile on my face, because that is the number one way to, it's like, if you want to chase the big stuff, earn the opportunity to do it. The satellites are out there. Go get it. Cash in your crowns. Do it that way. Do it the smart way. Don't do, 11, oh, my life's going to change. I'm looking at that $11 tournament, 100 grand first, and then you have a guy throwing in 100 entries, peeling off $1,000 of a bankroll when he's only got 2 grand in his bankroll, and then they wonder why they can't win. So, I think that's an incredibly sharp way to go. We're going to see Millionaire Maker tickets, probably within the next couple of weeks. And it's like, if you want to play in the Millionaire Maker, fine, but do it on the back of your satellite tickets. Don't, be one of these jackasses that thinks today's my lucky day. I'm going to beat out a field of, 100,000, 200,000, whatever it is for the Millionaire Maker to win $1 million. So that's crazy. So I want to talk about, you touched on PGA, you're learning it. How do you go about learning a new sport? Are you starting out even smaller in volume? Are you doing a ton of back testing? What's your approach for getting into a new sport to start, building your strategy, building that confidence, building that sample size?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, always start off small, and obviously there's going to be ups and downs. You could maybe starting it off a new sport and lose the first couple of days or 3 days or whatever, and then just say, screw it, I don't want to do this anymore. But it's just, it's a learning process for any sport. It does take time. No one like immediately comes in, obviously, and just wins everything. And just reading all different articles, trying to figure out, and sometimes you have to use your judgment and try to figure out, do I trust this source or this person's writing, and just kind of just see how it goes for a few weeks and then go from there.
Now, you touched on something that I wanted to get into next. How is a player like you keeping your skills sharp?
Skills sharp. Let's see. Difficult question. I don't know how sharp my skills are. Just, yeah, like, I mean, there's not much more I could say, pretty much. It's just looking at maybe different things, going back to tournaments and seeing what won, what you could have, like, just obvious things like that.
When you're putting together lineups per sport, obviously, you need leverage. Are you comfortable with having more exposure to get leverage? That seems to be the cleanest way to get leverage, but I know that makes a lot of players nervous. What's your take on the construction of your builds in terms of exposure versus the field?
I've struggled with this immensely, and I'm trying to get out of it, and I'm really trying, especially with baseball. It's really hard. Like when I first started playing baseball, it was kind of like stack everyone approach, like, just like, and like what I've kind of learned over this season is like you have to really pick and choose your spots, or at least I'm trying to learn this. Like you can't. It's really, especially in baseball, it's really hard to like you can't stack every team, and you're just you're praying for opto luck. Like, but if you pick and choose your spots, and you'll have a lot better success. Just I would say that, and like obviously there's going to be days where it might not work out. Like you could have went like like stacked the team 20% or whatever. It might not have worked out, but I believe that's like actually a really good way to go.
So I like what you said there, because I think that if you're confident and you've put in the work to build up the process, the results don't really matter. I mean, of course, we'd like to have a good result, but if we're doing the right things, the results will come. So I that's one of the things that you touched on also that I think is incredibly important is learning a new sport. We see it all the time. Guys will show up on Monday and they learn something over the weekend and they're fired up about it. And I'm going to do it on Monday and it didn't work. Okay, I'm still excited. Tuesday, I'm going to do it. And okay. Wednesday, this is my day. And then they quit. And then Thursday would have been the day that it actually came through. And then they're scrambling the next 4 days to, figure out something new or go to a new stream or a new tout site or whatever. So, it's really hard to be patient. So what do you think about your approach to DFS and being patient? What do you think that attributes to being able to have that quality to hang in the game long enough to have the type of success that you want?
Yeah, I mean, it's just pretty much being a patient person, and just, everyone gets frustrated, obviously. No one can win every day. People lose. It's just, trying to have that mindset where it's like, you know what? I'm going to put this out of my mind. That was yesterday. Today is today. And let me just, you can't really think about the past. And like sometimes it's been like you'll hear so many stories about like I could have done this and I could have done this, and it's like, well, like if you have a player and you're like or a stacking, you're like I was gonna stack this team, but that team went off. But it's like the way you can't think like that, because if you constructed it one way and you said, if I did it this way, then your other lineups would be constructed differently. So it's like, it's hard. Like you just can't, you have to move on, go day by day. And that's just all it is to it. You can't go back and be like, I switched out this person for this person and then this person for this person. You can't think like that. It's one day at a time and just keep going forward.
One day at a time. Sometimes it's one slate at a time. And I think you're right. I think that people don't understand the, butterfly effect that it can have on what you want to do. If you, like you said, like sometimes you have to trust your gut. And I encourage people to, hey, if your intuition's telling you to do something, do it. But understand that if it doesn't pay off, it might have a very, very adverse effect on what everything else from, a analytical or a numeric value is going to be affected. So it's a very fine line. How do you balance that fine line between implementing your gut and trusting your research, but also some of the other tools that you're putting together? How do you find that balance, or is there no balance? You're more numbers over gut. What's your attitude on that part of the game?
I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. It's you as time goes on, you might start hating on certain players or like loving certain players, and like this guy never comes through for me. I'm just gonna X him out of my pool, but I don't really believe in that. I know a lot of people that do sometimes just like cross people off their pool and be like, I'm not playing this guy, but that's another thing that you can't really think about. It's just every day is a new day, and that's just how it goes.
I mean, that is it's funny because that's my biggest struggle in a sport like the NBA. Like I joke all the time, like I hate Kemba Walker Day. Like I'm still going to play him because I think that that's one of the things that we can leverage as players is when everybody is sick and tired of, enter this player's name here, and we're going back to the well because that's what the numbers say. And, of course we got burned. Of course we could get a burn. Most of the success that I have is I've just gone back to something a little bit longer when everyone else has quit on it. So I really appreciate you bringing that up because it's really hard, especially when there's money in play, to stay excited about, seeing a guy or a team in our crunch. And it's like, am I really going to play the Marlins today? It's like, I don't know, but the Marlins can score 13 runs just as much as anybody else can. So, if that's what the numbers say, trust. So it's really, really hard. I think that at its core, DFS is a very simple game, but it's our own mentality, our own emotions that are the bigger struggle. What are you doing to take your emotions out of it so that you can stoically, humbly, patiently approach this game in the way that you do?
I mean, it's just pretty much just trusting the numbers and trusting what's in front of me. Yeah, I mean, like sometimes there's definitely players every day that I keep getting, and I'm like, this player still isn't hitting, this player still isn't making their shots, but I'm just gonna keep trusting it, and then hopefully it'll pay off. I mean, obviously the longer that players might not be performing as well, probably the less percentage they'll be owned every day because people will just be off them and be like, I'm done with this person. But just trust your data, trust what's in front of you.
So I'm noticing most of your volume is on DraftKings. What is your attitude or your thought process, your advice to casual players that insist on, no, I'm going to play on DraftKings and FanDuel and Fantasy Draft and Yahoo and I'm in a season long and like they start to tell me that and my head's about to explode. So what is your attitude on managing multiple sites, or just, hey, I'm just going to stay here because I like it more and more profitable?
I mean, I'd say if you could do it and you could manage it fine, go for it. Me personally, I've tried doing multiple sites on numerous days for like tournaments, and it's been rough. And me personally, I can't do it. Obviously, there's tons and tons of people who can do it, but I would say don't go outside your means. If you can't handle it and do it, then just don't bother doing it because it's absolutely no point. You're going to wind up screwing yourself, spending more money than you should, and it's gonna be bad. Especially for NBA. Like I personally, I don't even understand how a lot of these pros or top players manage NBA across like 3, 4, 5 sites or whatever. Especially with all these scratches, it's crazy. But for NBA, normally I pretty much I do like one. I play cash for NBA on FanDuel, and then like tournaments on DraftKings. But I have no preference really. It's just the way it's been going.
Yeah, I think it might be easier for a sport like football where the lineups, are similar, the scoring's similar. It's a week-long thing. But yeah, like I mean, I'm dumb. Like I can only play basketball on DraftKings. Like I still have not been able to figure out the player drop score on FanDuel. So, sometimes when I get hit up with that, it's like, dude, I don't know, So I appreciate that, you have insight in on that because I don't think there's a cookie cutter answer. I think it's very much like preference. Like, hey, like you said, if you can handle it, awesome. But if not, it's okay. Like you said, it's okay to say no. It's okay to take a day off. It's okay to take a slate off. It's okay not to play a sport. So, I just think you're incredibly, sharp, not just in your play, but in your approach to the play. So I want to touch on a little thing, when you started doing this as your main thing, how are the people in your life? How do they feel about it? Are they supportive? Do they not understand it? Is it something that you don't really talk about? What's your support system like outside of DFS?
I would say it's definitely a mixture of both. I don't think a lot of people, especially probably older people, my parents and whatnot, they don't really understand the amount of money that, the amount of money in the daily fantasy industry and gambling and everything else. They don't really understand how much money, like, what are you doing? And like, it's hard. I mean, but other people do understand it. They get it. They're like, if that's what you're doing and that's what makes you happy, then good for you. I mean, whatever works. And, I've been in, this, like, I've had like small, like other jobs before, even when I was doing like starting off, like working 9 to 5 in a cubicle, and it was just, I hated it. It was awful. And like DFS, at least, it's something that I want to do. It's something I want to get better at. It's something that makes me money. It's something I enjoy. Like even like the only struggle is between DFS and a real-time job is I'm not getting the same paycheck every week, obviously.
Right.
Some weeks I could be losing money, some weeks I could be winning money, but it's just important, like I said, it's important to know how much money you do have, how much money you can lose, and pretty much go from there. Like I would say, like if I'm playing, as I'm playing every day, it's like whatever I'm entering, I know how much I'm entering, and like in my mind, like obviously it's not the biggest thing, but it's like in my mind, like you have to think I could lose every single penny, and as long as I can lose every single penny, and I'll be fine, then that's fine. But if you're playing and you're like, I could lose all this money, and then I don't know what I'm gonna do, and it's gonna be a problem, then you probably should lower how much you're playing.
Yeah, I think so much of what you said is so important. A lot of the times when I'm working with someone else or they ask me for help and they're talking about their emotions that are in play, I almost, maybe it's the easy way out. I always want to come back to it being a bankroll issue, and I think that that's incredibly wise that a player of your skill set and of your accomplishment, it's still something that's very top of mind of, hey, how does this affect me not just today but long term? How can I create the sustainability that's helped make me a successful player? And going back to your parents, I don't know how old your parents are, but my parents were born in I think the 50s or whatever, and it's kind of insane to talk to my parents about, so what do you do? Like, I play a game about a game. Like, you can make money at that? And like, yeah, so I think as long as I'm not asking them for money, they don't ask a ton of questions. So I definitely get that. I want to get into some of the favorite topics that I love covering on every podcast. So I'd really, really appreciate if you could talk about, if there's a specific moment that was the absolute worst or a specific time. I really like relating to players that are trying to get better that, like you said, it's not, everybody sees and wants the big days. Nobody saw that I just lost $2,700 last week. I just lost rent and a car payment last week. So I don't think everybody understands what we're signing up for. And that's one of the things I want to help shed a light on is it gets really shitty sometimes. It gets really hard. There's days where I feel like quitting altogether. If a month doesn't go by where I don't think about quitting and reassessing my life at least once, I don't think I'm doing it right. So can you share a little bit more about, your biggest struggle or your worst loss or your worst run or sometimes where you were really just, it really challenged you to refocus and get better or times you even thought about quitting?
I could go on and on about bad beat stories. A few that probably come to mind. I think this was actually like college football, maybe like 4 years ago or something, and like it was like a pretty big tournament. Like maybe it was like $10 or something, like the winner gets like 10K or something. It was like during the bowl games or whatever, and like I think I had like a quarterback, wide receiver, running back in like the last game, and I was like, I could win this right now. And then unfortunately, for whatever reason, all the players got benched, and it was just like it was so deflating. It was like that was like really the beginning too, and like I wasn't really playing that much money. I was like, the players just got benched, and it's like just things like that happen. Injuries, I just especially in baseball, where baseball is the most violent. Is the most fickle sport because like a home run, a hit is so ever changing, like that's why like one of the things I do is I pretty much like I'm never ever staring at current winnings. I think that's a problem with a lot of people is they're looking at current winnings and how much they're winning and don't really think about like like one hit, one home run that changes so much money and like just something not to really look at too much. Yeah, I mean, just bad beats like that, just last inning home runs, needing strikeouts or whatever, and you just can't get that last batter out. It can be extremely frustrating, but that's just how baseball is, I guess.
Yeah, I think that you hit it on the head. I can't think of the number of times where, like you said, whether it's baseball or basketball, and it's like you're getting what you need, you have all the minutes late, and then it's a blowout, or you're up a lot, and then the meaningless home run happens. And I think that that's one of my favorite things about you is you have the discipline and the understanding of it's not just today, it's tomorrow, it's the next day. And, I'm definitely guilty of, there was one point last year where I had to basically set my lineups and then put my phone away until after everything was done for baseball, because I found myself one night, I was up like $500, meaningless home run happened, and I dropped down to like 150, and I felt crappy about it. And I was like, wait a second, like $150 isn't nothing. That's way better than losing, and it's still a decent chunk of money to do this thing that I enjoy doing. I need to refocus here. I need to change my attitude. So I think that that's incredibly wise that you're able to, maintain that consistent approach by not putting yourself through the torture. I mean, sometimes, you get to the end and you want to sweat and it's fun, but, I really applaud that you're taking that professional mindset. So, let's talk about your best moment. I was like ending the show of, obviously we play this for the highs of the highs, the peak performance that we strive to achieve, and talk to us about your best moments or the one that stands out the most. Because I think that, it's very, honest to talk about what doesn't work, but also I want to be realistic of, we're playing this game for a reason. We're still here for a reason. So, let us hear about your best moment.
For sure. I mean, I can actually also touch on one of actually these are both times in the NBA last season. Like I said, the best moment was obviously when I entered that ticket, that $11 ticket. And no, actually, I could talk on a couple funny moments. So in golf, this happened this season in Golf Showdown. I went to put in lineups and I made my lineups or whatever, and when I went to upload my lineups, I didn't recheck what I uploaded, and for some reason I had Jimmy Walker in all my dummy lineups, and I guess I recopied my CSV over wrong. So Jimmy Walker wound up being in all my lineups instead of the 12K or 11K golfer or whatever. And started there, I'm like, all right, well, I just, I wasted this much money. Like, my day's over. And that day, just so happened, Jimmy Walker had his best round of golf ever. And I wound up thinking, I think it was the $5. I think it was the $5 showdown for $3,000 or something. And that was just the luckiest moment that's ever happened to me. Every single one of my lineups had, I think, $4,000 left over because he was the cheapest golfer in the field. And instead of having Finau or Dustin Johnson or whoever, I wound up having him in my lineup. So I wound up winning, which is it was incredible. That's something that will never happen ever again. So that was a pretty awesome moment. Sometimes mistakes do work. I'm not saying they work all the time in any sort of means, but sometimes, you might not get that switch in or change that player that you needed to, and you leave it, and it just works out to your favor. But probably one of the worst beats I had was in NBA this season. I don't really play qualifiers too much, obviously. But I won a ticket to, I think it was an $860 qualifier off $5, off $5 satellite. And I had one lineup, and I entered the lineup, and the whole time I'm in first. I got to the last game. It was Knicks versus the Warriors, and I was in first place. I was up pretty, I was pretty high up. I think I was maybe 25 or 30 points in first or whatever, and the game goes on and on, and it gets to the third quarter. I'm still at first. And then for some reason, a person had Draymond Green, who's right behind me, and he was down about 6 points at the end of the third quarter, and I think the Knicks were down 25 or 30 points. And I'm like, all right, this is it. I'm gonna win this qualifier. I can do this. I'm gonna win it off a $5 satellite. It's gonna be awesome, great story, whatever. And then for some reason, Steve Kerr brings Draymond Green in for the fourth quarter, up 30 points, and I wound up losing. And that was very heartbreaking. That was probably one of the worst beats I had.
I don't laugh because I think it's funny. I laugh because I can commiserate, and I know exactly what game that you're talking about, and there's no rhyme or reason. And sometimes Steve Kerr will just send these dumb messages to his team, and you're like, any other night but tonight, and of course, could
Yeah.
it go any other way?
Yeah. So yeah, that was really brutal. I mean, got like $2,000 cash, but for second place, but that's obviously not what I wanted.
Totally.
But yeah, it's just it was pretty much probably like my most interesting or good stories, I guess, for now. And then the other thing that I was going to touch on before was just the night that I had those $11 tickets. I just I hit on my phone like mobile like enter like the lineups, and I think what I had was I had someone on the Suns. I don't remember who, and I think like TJ Warren got hurt or something, or someone else got hurt, and I kept moving up and up and up. I wound up being in first place for a while. Then I think I went down to second, but then I was in second for like until like probably like 50 seconds left in the last game of the Suns game, and I think Dragon Bender got like a last second rebound, and then moved me down to third place for 20K instead of 40K. But that was still a huge night. I was really happy with it. But both the times it was off tickets through satellite, things I would never enter by myself or just
Dude, that is absolutely incredible. I really appreciate you being candid about it and having a good attitude and being a good sport about it, because that that can cripple a lot of players. And I just really appreciate how you're like, you know what, I know what I'm signing up for. I'm happy to be here off of the pure probability of me even being in this chance of where I started to be here with this satellite ticket is incredible. So I really appreciate that you can acknowledge that and have gratitude about the situation, but also being able to have a sense of humor. And you deserved better, but you did run pretty pure, and you're okay with what happened, not satisfied, trying to get better. And well, I just got to tell you, man, you blew me away this hour. I hope everybody downloads this and listens to it. I learned a ton about you. I'd love to have you on again in the future. I just admire everything about your game, and I think that you're doing all of the right things. And if there were a blueprint for being successful at this game, you have mastered it. And I hope people can pick up on some of the helpful info that you've released. And I just really appreciate you being candid, man. You don't have to take the time and share. And we connected probably about 6 months ago and been getting to know each other a little bit better. But anything that I've asked you, the answer has always been yes. And I can't thank you enough, and I can't tell you how much that means to me for you to, you could have been a prick. You could have been like, no, you're my competition, screw off. But you're like, no, dude, like I appreciate you, and I just thank you, man.
I try to meet as many people as I can in the industry. A lot of people know that I'm a pretty friendly guy. I'll talk to whoever. I'm in a bunch of Discord chats, a bunch of other chats, and a lot of people that I've never met. It's crazy through the DFS industry. It's a lot of people that I've only met online or through RotoGrinders or whoever, like, have become like some of my really good friends in like real life. And I've met so many people. I've been on vacations at different places, and I've got to hook up or meet with people that I've always talked to online and never really met them in person. And every single person I've met, it's been awesome. They've been great people, and hopefully, like I said, hopefully we'll meet up someday. Hopefully in September when I'm in Austin.
Yeah, man, you're coming this way. My wife and I are talking about our next move. We might be headed to the East Coast, so I definitely am looking forward to doing that. And as this venture grows, I really want Bridge the Gap to be about talking about the industry and helping people get better and learning about great players like yourself. So I really appreciate you, stepping in right away to, get involved and make yourself available, because it's incredibly invaluable to me, and hope other players benefit from us. I'm going to share Will's Twitter on the show notes. This will go up on YouTube. It'll go up on all the podcasting platforms. Will, anything that you want to share before we sign off?
Pretty much, I would say also if maybe DFS, there's always different ventures you can go through. Also, like, I didn't really touch on it too much, but also like sports betting is another thing you can venture into if maybe like DFS isn't going your way, or things like that. But No, not too much other things.
Well, and that is something that is I definitely do as well, and I think that spreading your risk and creating additional revenue streams is a very sharp way to go. So on the next time, I would definitely love to dig more into your approach to sports betting, and everything's on the table. Whatever it can help us, take our love for these games and turn it into a productive means, whether that's being able to quit jobs we hate or do this for a living or be able to take away time from working overtime to be able to do this, to spend more time with our families. Like, that's what I want to be able to help people do.
For sure.
All right, well, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. Everybody in chat, I mean, they were lighting you up with awesome comments, Will. I really appreciate you again taking the time to do this. And if you're getting some run good this week, I hope it's because of this, because you certainly deserve it, man. Really appreciate everything you did for us today.
I hope so too. And best of luck in future endeavors. Thank you so much for having me on. Here anytime. If you want to hit me on Twitter, follow me, whatever, go for it. I'll be around.
Dude, you are the man. I really appreciate it, Will. I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.